The next chapter which we are going to see is sources of business finance. How do business procure finance? So come on, let's get started. Before going into that, just we wanted to know what is meant by business finance. Business finance refers to the money that is required by a business enterprise to carry out its business activities. So generally, finance is required at every stage of business. Business cannot function smoothly and successfully if there are no sufficient funds. So sufficient funds should be made available for it. Now, what is the nature of business finance? The business cannot function if there are no adequate funds. So the initial capital that is contributed by the owner will not be always sufficient to take care of all financial requirement of the business. Therefore, he has to look for other sources from where the needs of funds can be met. So before doing that, what he has to do is he has to make a clear assessment of financial needs. That is, he has to find out what are the finance required and what are the sources of finance through which he can do this. Therefore, this is one of the important process in running a business. So the need for fund arises at every stage, and when an entrepreneur make a decision to start a business, he has to take appropriate action in order to find out where all these funds are required. So some funds are needed immediately, but some funds are needed for the expansion of the business. So he has to decide what is the importance of business finance. So for two important requirements, every business requires finance. The first one is fixed capital requirement. The second one is working capital requirement. What is fixed capital requirement? So in order to start a business, funds are needed to buy fixed assets. What are fixed assets? Land, building, furniture, plant, machinery, etc. So this is called as fixed capital requirement. So the funds which are required in fixed capital remains invested in the business for a long period of time. Requirements of fixed capital always depends upon the nature of the business. For example, a manufacturing organization needs more fixed capital when compared to a trading concern. So the next one is working capital requirement. What is meant by working capital requirement? The funds which are required for the day-to-day operations of the business, that is called as working capital requirement. The financial requirement of an enterprise do not end with the procurement of fixed assets. So that fixed assets வாங்கினதோட அதோட requirement வந்து முடிஞ்சு போயிடாது. So business has to run every day. So it needs finance for its day-to-day operations. The finance that is required for the day-to-day operations of the business is known as working capital of an enterprise. So it can be used for holding the current assets like stock of material, bills, receivables, etc., salaries, wages, taxes, rent, etc. This is called as So, the funds which are required for the day-to-day operations are called as working capital requirement. So, it is very important for a business organization to have sufficient funds for fixed capital as well as the working capital.